Up, guys? I'm here with Hunter Stansbury from New Orleans, Louisiana. Hunter, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great, Brian. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. So, listen, I know you and I have been working together for a while. You've gone back and forth inside of the program, kind of popped in and popped out. But I know that recently you've been getting really involved again. You've been taking a lot of really good action within the group and leading, making a good example inside of the group for other people. And so tell me about the journey, man. Like, just walk me through, like, before you ever found any of my stuff, before we started working together. Like, tell me about what life was like, what you were up to, kind of some of the things you were doing, and walk us through the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. Before that, I was one of these rare cases that because I had served in the military, I pursued my benefits and I was blessed with that. And so it obviously helped me out a lot initially financially. I will admit that I have not been the best at um, being conservative with the money I got. So, I was always constantly finding things to blow it on. One thing I was addicted to was self improvement, and I was always trying to find the right program. I tried different things. Some things you could just tell, like the kind of advice you got, which a lot of these things put dating and pursuing people one on one before you ever did any social circle, which they had social circle last, and you kind of could tell like going about it and doing things the way they suggested it. Um, it was cringe, like it just wasn't natural, and you just kind of knew like you're like what am I doing here? Like I gotta do something else. So I had constantly, I guess, my algorithms, because I knew having a social circle was important, and I'm like had met somebody that tried to help me with social circle, and he was kind of let me know about it. Now the problem was there was a language barrier. He's from Canada, and that was an issue in itself. And then his prices were not reasonable, even though he thought it was, and he swore that he was giving me the best deal out of everybody. And it's just like I'm just like, wow, this is it's not going to work out, because it's putting me in a harder position financially. And um, the stuff he was telling me to do, he was just taking too much of my time where I couldn't get anywhere fast enough. So I saw New City Mastery at one point. Um, saw what you were about, saw the way you talked about your program, and I joined, and it seemed to be some very straightforward, like taking all the guesswork out of it. It just like there's was no room to overthink it. It seemed to be a very systematic, straightforward thing to follow. And honestly, one of the first things I did, I still wanted to be faithful and do it in order, and I felt like the best way I could do that is while I was there for months and I was figuring out how to navigate um, my best invites and throw events at different places, and I went through some trials and errors, and I winded up not following your advice the right way, and we got to communicate better, and I realized, okay, I got to approach this differently. Like for instance, the first thing I did is I threw a dinner party, and that's way backwards. I learned in your program that dinner parties is way for later once you've already established a social circle. So I'm like, I realized, I can't blame the program, and I can't get out of this one and dodge this one and go to some other thing because I wasn't even doing that right, and there's a miscommunication. So the more you and I got to communicate better, and I realized there's a certain exact way we got to do things, that helps. And the other thing is that I really like that in the beginning of your program, you're very honest and you talk about looks maxing is an important thing. Like your appearance, just like in marketing, just like in acting, just like in anything, just like in sales and business, it's your moneymaker. And so, as much as people never told me that that nobody ever talked about my teeth being crooked. A lot of people even thought my teeth were straight, but I realized I could improve that. I had some crooked bottom teeth, and so it did a lot of my confidence, at the very least, to for those months when I joined to immediately pursue Invisalign. And I guess you see this, it's like a game changer. I have this Hollywood smile, just like you do, Brian, and so that did a lot for my confidence, and it definitely helped me in photos, with social media content. So I kept consistent with a lot of the things you talked about doing, and I just kept having this recruitment mentality mode. and
Yeah.
and it became like a game. And so it
Yep.
got really real when he started making the marketing material for me. And I the goal was just to get an after party, honestly, out of that. Once I got people to program, and just having two beautiful women show up and inviting us to an after party, that was a major win, honestly.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't know that you got I didn't know that you got your teeth figured out and fixed and all that stuff. Maybe we talked about it at one time, but that's awesome, dude.
Oh yeah.
I know you and I, we've kind of had a journey with this stuff. We've had a little bit of like ups and downs. We had to go through some trial and error with some different spots in your city and really like make this work for you. And like you said, test different things with some definite failures that happened along the way. But what would you say are a couple of your biggest wins since you've been inside of the program?
Yeah, a couple of my biggest wins most definitely were the most recent event I threw. Remembering that there's this really lovely spot I always went to in the past, and it was the most catchy area and the best area too. And this hot tin rooftop bar. So I'm like, I got to capitalize on that because I was using this other spot called the Chloe Hotel in New Orleans, and it
Yeah.
just wasn't cutting. So when I started having the recruitment mode, and I started recruiting a bunch of people at the hot tin that already frequented there. That has a lot of potential in it in itself, but just me reaching out to people in my near past and letting them know about it, that helped a lot. And the general thing is that when they showed up, um, there's things that happen unexpectedly, like I have to pivot out of an awkward situation, and that may happen to a lot of us, and it's just knowing how to handle that, knowing how to do the right thing, knowing how to make everybody look good, have a positive attitude. Like if some attractive woman, like in this situation, she was saying some kind of racist stuff about this guy because he was Indian. So I had to stick up for him, and I had to just, tell her, yeah, he doesn't get down like that. I had to explain to her his situation, how he got to this country, and stuff. But she liked him a lot better, and it led to, because her and I were vibing well, and I was having a good time talking to her, and things were getting even better and better, and I was making them laugh, and I was just still staying in the vibe, and stuff, and I was kind of doing all the vibing because my friends, one of the friends, the Indian guy, he was having a little bit of a hard time, I guess, because of the language barrier. It wasn't easy for him to say much. He was kind of quiet, but it even got to some success for him, or the woman that was talking about him actually gave him her Instagram because I got her to be so comfortable with him. So that did something for him, his connections a little bit. And her friend was one of the most beautiful women there, and she winded up giving us the invite to the after party because of how I was vibing, and that just staying in the vibe really did so much that I had in mind, okay, I got to get them to go to some after party. But then next thing you know, we're getting an invite to an after party at a very elite spot where you have to get a reservation for to sit at a table where they're pouring some fancy alcohol, and you can't go unless you have an invite, and that's the kind of invite we got, and that just took off for me completely. I winded up going there and closing this woman I invited's friend, who was even more beautiful than she was,
Yeah.
and um and yeah, I had a good time with her, and that just said a lot for my potential, really. um
Yeah. I
so.
agree. No, I agree. I think it's like you said, a beginning, very early indication of the potential that you have. As long
Mhm.
as we continue down the path and we continue to refine the process and improve the process, and as long as we stick to it, if you're seeing wins like that so early on, then I think it's a very good sign. So what do you think works for you about my style? Like about the way that I teach my system and everything for friends and dating and stuff. What do you think it is about it that works for you?
What definitely works for me is essentially, I would say that there's no room to overthink. Like I said in the beginning, and specifically, like when you the outreach part, the process, it's just like you're never really lost. You never have to really wonder what to say because you have a lot of that support. And when you get when you get the coaching involved, is like how to do the outreach and how to invite people. It just becomes very common sense. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it just starts to be. It starts to you can just almost like take what you've learned and apply it yourself in different areas and different things. You know, not just social circle but business. You know, and stuff like that. Like it just you just become a way more efficient, more simple, better communicator. So that helps a lot. And the other thing definitely is that what I really like when I'm watching your material is you have this structure that actually, because I'm very structured, I'm military, and you have this past, present, and future phase where you just simply you talk to somebody and you vibe about the situation. If you're holding a drink, you kind of casually talk about the ingredients in the drink and whatever, see what they say about that, and then you just segue into this first part where you're just like, hey, where are you from? That's the past. And so I have that in mind when I'm talking to them, like, oh yeah, ask them where they're from. If I get lost, I just always can talk about that. And then, and I just ask them what brings you here. That's the present phase. And then in the end, it's just like, okay, any plans? And I just pay attention to the timing of the year. I guess if New Year's was coming up or Mardi Gras coming up in New Orleans, which is usually February, just any plans for Mardi Gras, blah, blah, blah. Once they say that, then you tell them about your invite, what you got going on, and say, yeah, you and some friends should come. It'll be a fun time. Bam, just that structure. It's just very, very smooth. That was my favorite part of learning that communication, especially because I'm a very in-person guy, and that does help a lot in person. You know, to
absolutely.
uh, to definitely give you that control. And which is what I constantly look for in any self-improvement program in general. Is to just have that solid structure up here where it's like, okay, this step one, and just simple steps. 1, 2, 3, go. That's
Yeah.
all you need, and that's what helps a lot for me.
Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing all that, Hunter. You're definitely an amazing contribution to the community, man. We're all really glad to have you in there, taking action, sharing your wins, and looking forward to seeing more of your future success, man.
All right, Brian, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, look forward to working with you even more.
Absolutely.
I highly recommend Brian Marcasano, everybody.
Cheers.